Hey, how are you? Nope. Oh, that's good.
Holy shit!
Wow. Welcome to the Chairmen podcast. I am your co-host, Nathan Bourne, and I'm here with my main man.
What's going on, man?
Arick.
Arick, that's me.
Yeah.
They already know, dude.
Yeah, of course. Dude, that was funny.
Bro. Hey,
I don't know if we're going to put that in, but I just attempted to kick off the episode, and it was so awkward. So I was like, nope.
Dude, yeah, just brought the people.
I am thirsty.
Yeah,
Let's
dude,
open these beers.
Open these.
Okay, they're water.
They're water. Cheers, dude. Dude, I'm excited for this, man. I think this is going to be really fun, man.
Me too, man. Me too.
Good. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is obviously this isn't the studio. We're not in Jacksonville, Florida.
I was just thinking, I wish it were. Yeah. Do you want to move to Columbia, South Carolina?
Dude, this is dope, bro. Like, we're in the library without books.
Right. So we are in Columbia, South Carolina right now. We just concluded 2 days at the MyCore event, and we're going to be going into sessions with the rest of the executive team here in the next hour-ish. And we're on site at the Graduate Hotel. We'll shout out to the water at the Graduate.
Dude, yeah, they give us canned water, and I've never had canned water before. I've had boxed water.
Well, I've not had liquid death. That's like all the crazy.
You really haven't had liquid
I've
death,
never
bro?
tried it.
Oh, dude, we need to go to the nearest gas station immediately.
Well, then maybe we need to look for future sponsorships from Liquid Death. We could just
I think their head of content marketing lives in Jacksonville.
Well,
so we need her on the podcast, and she needs to bring us cases of water.
All right. In that case, we're gonna have Liquid Death on every episode.
Every episode, dude.
Until they cave. So,
until they actually sponsor us.
Yeah, right. Act as if. But yeah, so we're here at the event. We just had a awesome company event, and we announced something really exciting.
Yeah.
And that is your presidency.
Yes. Yeah.
So effective
and then
immediately.
cue the background music.
Right.
Now,
I could
have walked down those steps. That's what I could have done.
Dang it. Yeah. So I announced yesterday, and I said to the room, effective immediately. I've always wanted to say that. Yeah. This is our new president at MyCore, Arick. So I'm super pumped about you being for MyCore, humbled by it. Yeah. I know we're going to talk about that. But let's do this maybe first, just so that our listeners can get kind of a feel, and we can kind of cast a little vision on why we're doing this podcast, why but you came up with the name, the Chairman. And just sort of set the stage.
Expert, as people know,
obviously.
I'm such a visionary.
Right. And in fact, for those that are listening that are familiar with the book Traction, if you know EOS, if not, we'll drop the link. Amazon will send us at least like 13 cents if you buy it from our affiliate link. But if you've read Traction, then you're familiar with the important roles between a visionary and an integrator. Yeah. And I am not an integrator, so that has left me with no choice but to be a visionary. And I think it'd be cool to talk about that as well, and our relationship, our partnership, our dynamic. But we have two solutions at MyCore: Profit Share and Market Share. Yeah. So it's fitting that we would kind of lean into that brand.
Yeah, and sit in chairs.
Right? These ones are wildly uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable, bro.
Really bad for the back. I go to the chiropractor just from this episode. And I think that people are looking for guidance, for kind of real and raw and relevant content around what it takes to do the deal.
Yeah.
What it takes to
and
build.
Not the same guru crap. We kind of joked around, this is the business podcast for people that are tired of business podcasts, because they're just all saying the same crap, right? They're all just out there telling you, do better, be better. Here's the 3-step morning routine. Like, Joe went out and bought the water, the ice, and the bananas last night. So,
right.
How was that morning routine, by the way?
Right.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah. I
Can I say something real quick?
Please.
I love the at, with, and for MyCore moniker.
Yeah.
Like I've caught on to that this week. Obviously, this is my first like live event being with everyone.
Deal, man. I wondered
this,
if you,
like,
I thought I heard you say it, and I was like, did he know what he just said? Did we say
yeah, like you'd never actually said that to me.
Okay, cool.
And like, I just heard people like saying it and it's like, dude, I'm at, with, and for MyCore. Like that is a powerful thing, right? Because, hey, yeah, I work at this company, right? I work with these people, right? But you never have it of like, no, I'm at, with, and for this company. And it just like triggered in me this, like, this is why I'm fucking here, dude. Like, yeah, let's go. No pee-pee on the toilet.
Dude, we gotta like insert that reel because that dude is so funny, man.
bro.
No pee-pee on
No pee-pee on the
Let's go.
Bro, you do that too hard.
Oh, I know every
Bro,
time, man.
Oh my God. But like, I think that is like, you know, obviously coming on as the president and, you know, I mean, that's a pretty powerful title, right? That's like a title that I don't take lightly, right? Coming from my background and, you know, just being able to see everyone in the room, right? Like we've gotten to know each other, gotten to know Joe and everyone kind of individually on the executive team, but everyone together in this mentality of at, with, and for in organization is just something that I mean, I've never seen it anywhere else. And like, obviously, you know, my background, startup world.
Actually, why don't you go into that? Because I know there's going to be people that are listening that kind of know us or maybe listen to the MyCore podcast and are going to, you know, just start to consume the Chairmen podcast. But why don't we take a moment, kind of lead with who and share a little of our backgrounds. And then I want to come back to that conversation because I've never heard anyone flesh it out like that. And I started introducing that into our like language. You might have heard Susan Marie mention.
Who, by the way, her and Curtis on stage, literally the best two-way dual presentation I've ever seen. They literally just like, it fired me up.
They finish each other's
sandwiches.
You definitely have a young daughter.
Uncrustables.
If you guys don't know that Frozen reference, that's the song, remember? Do you know the Frozen song?
I do, yeah.
Anyway.
Unfortunately, because that was her favorite.
We finish each other's sandwiches. Yeah, they're amazing, right?
So good. But yeah, no, I mean, I can share. I mean, my career started in Silicon Valley. I went and chased the startup life and saw some success, had a couple of exits, and from there was consulting and was in the consulting world for a while. And I got to work with hundreds of startups, right? And hundreds of founders that were changing the world, right? And I think that every founder thinks that their product, their solution, their thing, their what is going to go out there and change the world. And it's really difficult, you know, when you're consulting an organization that is doing a calendar efficiency tool to be like, bro, you're probably not going to change the world. Like, you know,
one
issues are
at a time.
yeah, right. So it was, you know, once I left consulting, went and started a home services company. We built that to eight figures in 18 months. And then after that was brought on to the larger organization as the chief revenue officer and spent about 18 months there as well as the chief revenue officer. And now here we are in Columbia, South Carolina, you know, with at and for MyCore as the president. And so, you know, I think it is really cool because that does trigger a lot of conversations that I have. And today, obviously, we're going to be talking about culture. But, you know, I think that's something that you've done extremely well at MyCore with the people that are here and honestly, the people that are around it too. Like just even the people that aren't even in MyCore, right? Like,
you know, it's like what you just said, right? So they might not be at or with, but they're for.
But they're for MyCore,
right? Like we've got people that come that are our partners that are that even power what we do, like Guideline and Rippling that sponsored our event. Got to say that because they gave us $1,000. So,
we love both of them
both.
so
They're
much.
amazing, best platform ever.
But even people were here that had nothing to do with MyCore from like a business perspective. And it was just like here at this event, to just be a part of a community of individuals that are pushing in the same direction, trying to go after the same things. And I think that's what's cool about it, because you don't typically see at an event, like a company event, that you've got people that are like, I'm fired up to be here. I'm fired up to spend money, time, energy, resources to come to this company event that I don't work for. That like, I'm not going to get an ROI on this thing, but directly. But the thing is, they will.
Bro, I asked Kyle, you remember in those closing remarks, I was just like, this is like real-time social proof. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So in those closing remarks yesterday, I read off Paul's post on LinkedIn about his experience.
That fired me up.
Kyle's text. And I had just like a quick conversation with Kyle, and I just said, hey man, like, I know this is kind of like our company event that might have been like a little heavy from a cultural standpoint of like, you know, the gangs together. Did you still have a good time? Did you get, you know, much out of it? And he goes, dude, and he grabs the My Core journal and he goes, well, you tell me. And he had notes on notes. And I was like, that's cool. And he writes small, by the way. So it's like, dude, that's like 2 journals.
He seems like he has really neat handwriting.
He's just a neat dude.
He's just a neat dude, right?
Like, he's super buttoned up. Yeah.
But I think people catch that, right? Like everyone says culture is caught, right? It's not taught. And I think there is that, and that is a very cliche.
Say down. When I do the My Core podcast, I'm like, as I always say.
Right? It's like, it's caught, not taught. And I think there is something to be said around your story and your journey and the things that you've been able to do over the course of My Core that has brought in absolute studs of human beings, right? Us both, right? Where could you find those people, right? But that is the piece that I think most people are trying to get to, is what My Core is, right? It's most founders, VPs, C-level executives, entrepreneurs are trying to build that culture. And I mean, the culture starts with social media, right? Like, you build the culture, right? We came together because of a post that you made.
Did you like that thing I said? I just randomly thought of it, but because you were crushed. Sorry, just thinking about your training. So if you check my bio on the socials, it says cursing Christian. So I am unapologetic about my Christianity. I'm also unapologetic about cursing. So I'll probably
As Greg
offend you either
Vedder
way.
says, just let me have this one.
Yeah,
thing.
that was great.
That was
right?
awesome.
It's like, just let me have this, honey. You've taken everything. So, but I just loved that for the first time ever at a My Core anything, people were like, you're not the one that cursed. I was like, Ned has taken the cake. You are the new dude. But when you said at the end of your training, but you freaking crushed it.
I appreciate it.
I have notes on that, and I was like, damn, dude, I do not know about this. I mean, I really am stoked to see this impact that you're making take flight. But you said like, so yeah, like in short, go make a fuckload of money. And then everyone was like, you're like, the end. You like ripped off your mic. I was like, that was sick, dude. That was awesome.
I was just really hot up there. I was like, dude, I had a lot more slides. I just got way too hot, dude. I was like, the end.
The energy in the room, yeah.
No, it was, I mean, what's cool about, and like, that is the thing about My Core that I think is really special, right? And to speak kind of in generalities for anyone listening is like, you've created a culture that someone like me with a hand tattoo, nose piercing, half sleeve, 15 tattoos, wearing Vans can step up there and be myself and not stress about like, oh my God, am I offending anyone? Am I going to go get talked to by this person or that person? And it's like, and sure, there's probably some behind the scenes conversations of like, that Ned guy. Yeah. But it's like, at the same time, it's, you know, with, at, and for, right? If we're with my core, if we're at my core, and we're for my core, we're going to bring a ton of different types of people from all different backgrounds.
Yes.
You know, we're going to bring in a bunch of people because the thing that you've built is this very inclusive, exclusive though, community, right? And I think there's something to be said around that. It's like, no, we accept everyone, but we expect from everyone something.
You know what?
Yeah,
Dude, that's good. That kind of teased me up for what I had said around the law of attraction.
Yeah,
where I had everyone write that down, and I said cross out attraction. And I'll just say it to you guys, like, I don't know if you're taking notes. Like,
if you're driving, don't be. Unless you drive a Tesla.
Right. So I just had everyone write down law of attraction. There's a lot of context around it, but it was about attracting people, not so much the, thoughts become things. And I said, it's really not about, although it is, because the things that you attract in your life are from your dominant thoughts. They are from your dominant feelings, but they're really who you are. Like attracts like. Yeah. You don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. And
that's good.
I said, that's kind of a nug right there. But I said, now cross out attraction and write repulsion. I said, the name of the game is the law of repulsion. Nobody talks about this, but if you are clear and bold in your values and in your mission and ultimately in your identity, you will put a force field around you that actually repels the wrong people, which creates a path. And it should be a relatively narrow path for people to find you. And I think that's what you're speaking to.
100%. Well, I think even just like, you had our new shield that you unveiled, the no shield, right?
The lead with who shield.
The lead with who shield, right?
But that's derived from the signal flag for no.
Yeah. And I think like that's something most organizations and most people don't do, right? Because I think most individuals on a basic level are people pleasers, whether they want to say it or not, right? I think if you were to say like, hey, you're a people pleaser, people would probably say, I'm not. Yet they're saying yes to things that they probably don't want to say yes to. Right. They're involved in activities they don't want to be involved in. This could be, personal, it could be professional, whatever it may be. They're doing things they don't want to do because they feel as if I say yes, then I'm going to move one step further, one step closer. And I think that what my core has done so well, and I'd love for you to just really get into what this law of repulsion can be, because I think you guys have done that. It's inclusive of the people that understand the core, right? Pun totally intended there, right? That understand what that is. And you attract those people because you've been able to build an exclusive community that expects a high level from people. And I think if there's founders listening to this, entrepreneurs listening to this right now, the key is exactly that. It's finding that balance of inclusion and exclusion, which could actually get us canceled on episode 1 that I'm even using that word. Right. But I think go into that, man, because I think that's the powerful thing that I caught on to.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's kind of my jam. So I'll dive into that. Try to get some even maybe a little how-to around this, because there's an art and a science to it. I think people think that visionaries are just artists. We're
your hair is artwork.
That's funny. Dude, the stash is killing today.
Dude, thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man.
I didn't clean mine up. I went a little scruffy.
Yeah, I looked at it and it kind of looked like I just had a really bad beard this morning. So I was like, all right, dude,
that's awesome. So I think people think that visionaries are just like balls of energy, or they're, like wannabe oracles or something. And I think for my visionaries that are listening, that maybe are more in my role, and particularly founders. And by the way, if you're an integrator, like true and true, stop trying to found companies, dude. like quit and go find a Nathan Bourne.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm not. You could found a company.
But I had Alex.
But you had Alex.
But I had Alex.
You weren't a single founder. You were a co-founder.
100%. Because Alex built the culture. Right. Alex was the one that was telling everyone when we were recruiting them how big we were going to grow and what this was going to do for their family and their legacy. And I can get behind it. But I was the guy that came behind and said, hey, dude, this is exactly how you're going to go do that. Let me build the path for you. Right. And I think everyone needs that.
And I want to talk. I want to don't want to skip to this part, but I'm going to just say it out loud so I don't forget it. It's going to be fun to be cranking out these episodes too, because there's just a lot of experience that you and I have that is nuanced. I mean, you're 32, I'm 36. And typically to have the amount of hours that we have in the trenches and sort of like systemically, like through osmosis and just time and grade, there are things that I know you are unconsciously competent to. Yeah. And there are things that I'm unconsciously competent to. I don't even know that I know it because I've spent so much time in and around it, you know, at, with, and for. Yeah. So I'm stoked for this podcast because I think that people are looking for more than just a regurgitation
100%.
Of shit that they've heard. Yeah. And no offense to those out there that are, you know, getting it in the coaching world or getting after it in the content creation world, but I think there's a sea change coming. Yeah. Because the people that were kind of early to the game that started creating content and making a name for themselves, they weren't very busy because they didn't have a real company in the real world. Yeah. So they could do that, and we kind of watched it, right? We were like, what do they? I thought social media was like a thing you socialize, and then all these people showed up and started to like create content that was authoritative, that was, you know, like, this is how you do it, or this is why you do it. But I think, at just risk of sounding like a dick, I think it's like, I just know, bro. Like, I know immediately if you're just saying shit that you've heard or read or that you've actually dealt with. Yeah. Like, have you ever fired a person? Like, have you ever hired a person? Yeah. Have you ever, like...
Have you ever had a struggle moment?
Right. Like, have you ever renegotiated with a vendor? Have you ever been behind on this or have accounts receivable on that? Have you ever dealt with investors? Like, there is so freaking much that goes into a business. Yeah. It is not for the faint of heart. And I think that what's happening is if you are the real deal Holyfield and you actually have built an organization that is developed and capable, then you're using that margin you have, that like freed up bandwidth. Yeah. And you can go like create lifestyle if you want, or you could create content and do what we're doing, which is say, hey, we're like going to be real time talking to you about what it takes to actually be, not do, because we're human beings, not human doers, right? Or human doings, right? So it's like, who do I have to be the president of a company, to be the CEO of a company, to be the founder or the chairman of my life? Yeah. And that's really what I think the tone of this is going to be. A little bit, definitely bold, because it's you and I, right? And we're going to say things that we'll probably get canceled for, but
I've already done that, so no one's listening.
And just by the way, like, as a disclaimer for our listeners, I want you to know that I'm going to be speaking from the heart. I'm going to be sharing things that I've learned, things that I'm learning, because, dude, we don't have it figured out. Like, we're real time navigating. And I will probably offend you at some point, but I want to just create a space for us to be able to, like, be real and raw. Yeah, that too. The good thing is we're equal opportunity offenders. So if you're not offended, just reach out to us and we'll think of something. Yeah. So I used to say that before I would do my talks.
I like that. Yeah.
Be like, look, guys, is it cool? And I'd get permission. I'd be like, this is actually a little bit of a nugget for public speakers. I would say, is it cool if I just like speak from my heart, share who I am, like be real and raw with you, and I'd get the buy-in. And yeah, cool. Like, awesome. And also, I'm an equal opportunity offender, but don't worry. I'll offend everybody. And if I don't, by the end of my time here, just come on up and I will think of something. So that was my little one-liner. But anyway, back to the meat of what we were saying there. I think that the world is looking for more than just the hit of dopamine from a 37-second motivational video. Yeah. And somebody's saying, oh yeah, no, it's really freaking hard. And you're going to have to dig in deeply into who you are and like level up and boss up. Yeah. I know it's called the Chairmen, but this is not a gender thing. You know, this is a role and a posture and a positioning in your life, in your business, in your family, in all the places and all the things. So I think that's going to be helpful for people to maybe like borrow our posture, borrow our belief, and then also hear our vulnerabilities. Like we don't have it all figured out.
Well, I think like, you know, obviously I've got my newsletter and all of that, and you see my stuff on LinkedIn, right? And that has grown. And, you know, I started that 12 weeks ago, and that's grown to over 500 subscribers. And literally, I don't even post about it, right? It's just kind of like grown. And all of it is just me being like, hey, there is deconstruction that happens when you are in this thing that we call business, right? You deconstruct to start a business because you have to start from the ground, right? Ground floor. And then, you know, when you sell your business, you maybe are going after what the world says success is. And I think there's a lot of people right now that are creating content. There's a lot of founders that have started a business and they know the pain in the marketplace. They know what they can put out there. And the problem with that is not necessarily that you're not going to build a great business. You probably will. You'll probably build some sort of 10, 15, $100 million company that could go get acquired. But if you don't know who you are at the core and you're chasing the world's definition of success, here's the problem. You can't build culture from a fake place. Right? Because here's the problem. You're going to burn out real quick when you're putting on a mask every day, trying to be this person that you are not, and trying to bring that down and delineate that to a core group of individuals that now have to take that culture somewhere else and down to the, you know, the individual contributors on the team.
And by the way, like a quick little, you're preach, bro. You're killing it. Like if you're listening and you have a team and your team looks a lot like you, then you are not leading with who, which is ironic because
you would think it's the opposite, right?
Don't birds of a feather flock together. No, core values and mission flock together.
And you said something at the beginning of this week around like there are probably a lot of you in this room that don't even know, have worked for companies that you couldn't even, like being in that company, you don't know their mission, you don't know their values, you don't know their mission statement. And here's the thing, is like in Silicon Valley, typically that's as soon as you get off the elevator, it's right there. And I couldn't tell you 90% of the organizations that I've worked for.
Because they check a box that there's this virtue signal.
Have to have it.
It's, you some consultant at one point asked you to do it, and you think of this like altruistic way to say, these are our values, and you know we're on a mission. And then if it's not ridden within the organization, like systemically living and breathing, and it is a living, breathing organism. Like anything, it ebbs and flows. You know, that the pulsating of your culture, the pulsating of your values and mission, i.e., who you are. It needs to be protected vigilantly. You have to be vigilant about it. You have to be a damn vigilante. You got to Batman that shit. Because in
the dead of night.
Seriously. And you got to dig into places that are not all good and light. They have to,
super uncomfortable in a lot of cases.
And that's what I've done, man. I've allowed the darkness to be part of it too. We did that exercise when I went through the value lead with who, and I, just for our listeners, I'll kind of frame it out for you. I had everybody, you know, write a line down their page, and I said, on the left side, I want you to write down all the bad things about you, all the things that are negatives, that are weaknesses. And this might be things that you think negatively about yourself, and this might be things that other people have said about you. And, you know, it was like super depressing for a second. But then we did the other side of that line, which was write all the positive things that you believe about yourself and that others have said about you. And it can be something as simple as you have a great smile, or I love your laugh, or, you know, whatever. And then what we sort of kind of did, and we didn't have too much time because I'd have a longer, more like workshop version of that, was like, where did that come from? Like, what's the origin story of that word, of that adjective, of that character? Did your dad tell you that? Like, did you tell yourself that was a teacher that told you that? And people don't realize the power of these words, man. You know, thoughts become things. And I think that in just that exercise, I had a few people come up afterward and be like, that was powerful. But the sort of like layer to that wasn't just like you can overcome it or, you know, forget labels. It was actually, you need to accept that part of you. So like for me, anger is like top of the list, right? Well, I've learned, and I still struggle with this, how to harness that and redirect that into my work, into the intensity of my work ethic. You know, in the earlier years through wrestling, that was, and just sports in general. I know you were a college football player. I was a college wrestler. And like, if I didn't do those things, I would have been in jail, dude. I would have beat the shit out of people. Because I actually did, when I was in middle school, had a very close call of just beating somebody to like a pulp, and was like, oh my God, like I could have been in jail or killed this person. And it was in that moment. I've actually not been in a fight since then. Yeah. And since 8th grade, because I've figured out how to harness it. Because the darkness, you know, and kind of to go with the Batman thing, it's like, you merely adopted the darkness. I was born to it.
Well, I mean, like, dude, think of Steve Jobs, right? I mean, I've never actually seen the movie Jobs, but from what I've heard, it's like, you know, he had those issues. He was very, very just like critical of people. But Apple has a culture, right? It doesn't matter if Tim Cook's at the helm. Right. He created a culture of, no, we go out there and we get things done and we innovate. Yep. And if you're not innovating, you are not here, right? That's a culture, right? And he took the dark pieces of him and said, no, I'm going to harness this into creating the most badass company that people literally just are going to have everything that we build. They're going to camp out outside of Best Buy. And I'm sure he wasn't thinking that at the time, but that's what he built because he took who he was and what he was doing. And too often people mask that. Too often people are going, no, our culture is butterflies and rainbows and happiness and retreats. And it's just like, no. Like people will buy into that. But Kenya's personal branding exercise or presentation that she did yesterday, I mean, that was next level game changing, even for me, for you, for the people. I mean, we had Becca in the room who's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and she's in there taking copious amounts of notes because it's like, man, and this is really where I want people to just understand what culture is. Culture is dangerous if you do it right. Yeah. Dude, it is dangerous because people are going to latch on and they are not going to leave. Because a big culture test for anyone in here is, would your people stay if you couldn't pay them?
I actually can prove that that's true.
No, exactly, right? You have created an organization of people that have been through the shit. And because that's what startup world is. It's just shit. It's like people,
it's
and
in 2000 survival, stamina.
Dude, when I moved out to Silicon Valley, right, in 2015, right, went out there, I was chasing the Silicon Valley TV show, which also is really good, by the way, because it's really like they go through a lot of things. But you're thinking like, dude, I'm going to be the next Facebook. I'm going to go do this thing. Less than 1% of companies do that. Less than 1% of companies go public, right? Dude, any sort of transaction event, right? It's probably not what that founder thought they were going to do at the beginning. But there are so many valleys in that journey that people don't talk about. Right?
I think they set the trajectory wrong too. As you were sharing that,
interesting,
it made me think like, you got to don't be lazy in language, Jim Rohn said, and be very selective about your word choice, even down to what is normalized. So you take something like a unicorn and you say, oh, we're building a unicorn. So you're building something that doesn't exist. That, shits rainbows and butterflies out of its ass, like, and cotton candy, like that seems wonderful because it has all the fluff that you just described. I call it empty carbs. It's cake and ice cream. I like cake and ice cream. I like sweets, but I can't live on a diet of sweets. I can't wake up and eat cake for breakfast and cake for lunch. And
here's the thing is your people that work for you, when you do that, expect cake and ice cream. And guess what? When you're eating gruel, they're leaving. Right. Because you haven't actually said, hey, listen, there's going to be some shit. we're going to get through it together. We're going to strengthen together because you decided that, hey, I'm going to build this unicorn. No, we're going to build a $1 billion business, which is what a unicorn means.
Right.
But we're going to build a $1 billion business.
Good, bad, ugly.
Yep. We are going to go through it together. We're going to trudge through the mud. And guess what? When the plane takes off and it gets in the air, there's still going to be turbulence. Right. And guess what? We're not landing this
thing. And we may land it without. Actually, we're never going to land.
We're never landing.
In fact, that's an important thing, I think, to share, too. That's good, man. Something that came to mind as you were preaching.
Preacher Ned, not president.
Yeah, right.
I'm the preacher. Effective immediately. Ned's the preacher.
Fuck yeah. I think that we don't give people enough credit. Like,
yeah, dude.
Like, people can handle that shit.
Bro.
I learned in my leadership, this, let people know your flaws early on. Like, as quickly as you can, get it out there that you do not have your shit together, that you are a mere mortal, that you are figuring it out, that you got a couple things that you kind of got dialed in, that you've learned mainly the hard way, but that you're constantly open to people that can fill all of your weaknesses, fill all of your gaps, and then even just fill the things that frustrate you, like the 6 types of
working genius.
It's like, it's not that you are an idiot and you can't do those things. It's that they bother you.
Yeah.
And bother isn't like, oh, I'm so mad. I mean, we're not digging ditches. This is, pretty modern. We're at the Graduate Hotel in this library and we're going to get lunch. And I mean, this isn't real hard, especially compared to the way we grew up.
For sure.
And we'll get into that more, but,
a little Motel 6 action, baby.
Right.
Did you know there's been a murder at every Ramada?
Really?
No, I don't know.
No. That's funny. I have a whole story about a Ramada in Bowie, Maryland. So we'll do another episode on that. But you and I grew up in humble upbringing. Maybe I'll just insert my story real quick here. And then we get back on the good stuff. So I'm the 4th of 9 children. My parents got married at 18 and 19 years old. Went right into the baby making business, which is fruitful but not lucrative, and they were like nonconformists.
Sure.
True. Well, they did. They took that very seriously. I mean, they fully relied on God, and I was like, I think God wants you to do some more work, But so we grew up where I was homeschooled, which was kind of more like no schooled. I don't know if I shared this with you, Ned, but I didn't see the inside of a school until 7th grade. Yeah, never even seen a school before. So even as I have kids now,
you didn't watch Saved by the Bell.
Right.
That was my shit,
Wake
bro.
up in the morning. It's been wild to raise young children and have them go through, these grades. My daughter is in 6th grade, and I realized, oh my gosh, in the fall she will be starting 7th grade, and that's my first memory of school. Is 7th grade. But I could barely read or write, dude. Because we just didn't have a formal education. Now we got all this other cool education because they would take us places and we would hunt, and I learned all this kind of real life experience. We weren't like weirdos in the backwoods or something, but I was not set up for success. There was a lot of disorder, a lot of chaos. Before I graduated high school, I moved 24 times, and I know that number specifically because my college essay, I wrote about it. It had the question write about a time that you faced adversity and how you came over it, overcome it, came it. I'm like, oh, this is like a day in my life. Dude,
overcoming adversity is easy, bro. It's like, you're not supposed to be here.
Definitely not. And it was funny. I somebody paid me a compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment, but I just took it over.
That's another thing. You should always take everything people say to you as a compliment.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you. But she just said, I really appreciated your vocabulary, like the way that you choose certain words and the order that you put them in. And I thought that's pretty interesting because what she wouldn't know is that I didn't speak until I was 3. I had a speech impediment for the next probably 7 years. And in a family of 9 children in what was pretty much total chaos as the 4th of them, there's not a lot of room. Yeah. That's why I'm out there in the world now, because it's my way to sort of be heard and seen. And anyway, so I know that from therapy, by the way. Lots of it. Lots, yeah. And I then went into school and found an oasis. I found a path. I found a way to say, oh my gosh, this is going to be how I'm going to, be successful in life. And then I was pretty athletically inclined, so I locked in. And then to kind of give the rest of that story, 6 years later, I'm getting recruited to wrestle at Harvard and Stanford and Penn, and I ended up wrestling at Penn. So I went from like never seeing the inside of a school, could barely read or write, to 6 years later graduating and wrestling Division I at an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
And as I like to say in a lot of my content, I'm not saying that to boast or brag or impress you. That's not true. That's exactly what I'm saying. But also, to impress upon you. So anyway, that's a little of my story, a lot more of that. But you and I have this in common.
I think this is like what's important is not everyone has to have that story either, right? Like I think too often, like what I see is like, we always talk about be real, be raw, be relevant.
Yes.
Right. It's like if your real is my dad owned a company.
Right.
My mom never worked. I was raised by the nanny. And my dad gave me my first $1 million to start my business, and all of his friends are investors in my company, and I've had it great. There's still shit. But like, you don't have to have, I never saw the inside of a school until 7th grade and had a speech impediment. And look at me, I'm speaking on stages in front of thousands of people now and have this company and all of these. It's like, no. Like, be real, be raw, be relevant to that, because that's the culture you can build. People aren't going to build the MyCore culture. If I started MyCore, it wouldn't have the same culture that it has today. It'd have a terrible culture. But like, that's another piece that I think is so impactful about the culture that you've built and the people that you've been able to attract is because of your story. Leading with who is what you always talk about. And I think that's what most, Paul said it, most companies are missing this thing, which is the who at the top, because the person at the top actually in their content isn't being real. They're not being raw. Right. They're not. And like, maybe they have a fake backstory or whatever it may be, because like we have very similar backgrounds. Right. I grew up in a very, very small town in Leonardtown, Maryland, on the wrong side of the tracks, not with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was fat. Fat and poor aren't the best ways to grow up. I can tell you that much. Right? You were hot. Like, I hate you, dude. Oh, you were poor, dude. Oh, boo hoo, dude. Girls liked you, bro. Like, oh my God.
I was gonna try to say like, my experience wasn't quite the same. Like, you were hot.
Dude. You had abs on abs on abs. I had flabs on flabs on flabs, baby. Dude, come on.
That's
but
funny,
like,
dude.
it's.
Yeah, I had social capital.
Yeah, dude, you had, I had withdrawn all of that at like 2 years old. So, and I had to build it back up.
Social crypto.
Yeah. I had social debt, like crippling debt. But like, that's the thing is like, yeah, sure. Maybe that allowed us to go out into the world and build ourselves and our work ethic and things of that nature. But dude, if I had been around a dad who had built $1 billion company, I think the same thing would have been true. Right. Because I would say, oh, no, I want to do that. I want to live up to that. And maybe that's both positive and negative. Right. Like you're pushing after what the world says is success.
I struggle with whether, it's kind of the nature nurture argument too.
Yeah.
And I think the tension in it is good, is healthy. But I kind of spoke to it earlier around like your and I's strengths and the complementary nature of them, the visionary and the integrator. I think that a lot of people do think that they want the rags to riches story.
Yeah.
And they maybe try to like punch up some of the not that challenging
It's because they tell you that that's more like applicable to the culture. And I mean, what I can say is maybe, but like,
well, your life doesn't have to be a Netflix documentary.
No,
like
dude,
you could make a huge impact on the world and on your family and on your community and in your church and in the relationships of your life, which ultimately is what matters anyway.
Yeah.
Without that, and I think
and own it.
Well, this is something I think is dangerous right now in our culture, particularly among like bros, is they think that they have to start their own thing.
Yeah.
And have their own brand and be that. There's something that I'm been humbled by with you, because you've had these successful exits, you've grown these successful companies, and you're in this moment where you only stepped back as the CRO of Addicts in December, right?
Yeah.
December 31st. So you're obviously still you know, on the board
Yeah,
and,
like
and
involved,
equity and all the things, right? But you are like a free agent, right?
Yeah.
And you've been in this, I don't want to say soul search, but you've been in this season of like,
I would say,
all right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Okay,
I would
cool.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we've had private conversations around that, but something that's cool, and I tell you, Ned, I think you have a real calling on your life, like God's favor. I know you do. Even the fact that not even, I mean, I think I read that.
Yeah, it was January 23rd is when I hit you up, and then January 27th, asshole. Bro, left me on
funny,
red.
right? Yeah. I was like, so I read it, and I was like, immediately, I'm going to message him in 4 days. So I had to play it cool. But yeah, so that was just
hard to get.
So, I'm not even interested in getting coffee. Like, fine, whatever. Like, call my people. Like, have my people talk to your people.
Yeah, dude. I didn't even know your people.
I was like,
bro.
tomorrow. But you know, that's a pretty short time frame. Like, who knows where you'd be mentally, like if you had to like navigate all year. Do I work at this company? Do I coach? Do I consult? Oh, the newsletter's blowing up, the content. I think it's really neat that God has had this plan to connect you to my core. And the way I've described you in these last couple days, I said it, I think, kind of peppered throughout the event and in private conversations. Then I closed out the event. And the thing I wrote down, it's right in my notes, I wrote culture shock.
Yeah.
Right? And this is, I think, an important thing, too, because that has a negative connotation that, like, oh, that's a shock to the system. If every time you hire a high-level leader, there's not a shock to your system and it's not a rattling of the cage, like Ned at my core, Ned with my core, Ned for my core should be like a freaking hurricane that you have battle tested your infrastructure. And if we can't stay true to the things that are us and then absorb that shock and then go, he's right about that. Shit, we had a blind spot there. Dude, that's embarrassing. Like, there's things even in the last 2 weeks I'm like, can we just pretend that didn't happen? Like, sweep that under the rug.
Joe at dinner the other night when he was like, no, we already knew all of that. Like,
yeah, well, Joe's been in my ear.
Yeah.
And to his defense, I'm like, yeah, Joe told me that. like I'm almost like, did Joe like hire Ned? He's like a paid
Joe
actor.
did, yeah. Joe
like,
did. Joe was like, hey, dude, I need you to come and act.
But it's a timing thing too. It's also, there's so many dynamics that people don't get too. Like Joe and I went to high school together, right? So there's a long-standing relationship that sometimes both parties can just be like in friendship mode, and then be like, oh yeah, I probably didn't give that enough of like a business conversation.
Well, it's a little bit harder at that point, right? When you've got history and, you know, like I think about Alex and one of the executives at Addicts, their brother-in-laws, right? And it is very difficult at that. They would have business conversations, you know, and this is outside looking in. I don't know if this is the case, but they would have business conversations thinking about how's Thanksgiving going to be, right? And so I think there is, and what we've done really well, and I think this is really crucial for the people listening, is when you go and find that person that you're going to go scale that company with, it's really, really important that you're real up front and you can take the like criticism both ways and constructive and sometimes unconstructive criticism, right? Of just like, and there are people that can do that and not in a better way, but in a way that is, you know, what's the word? I'm like, it resonates more just because it's like, you didn't know me from Adam frickin' January 22nd. Right. You didn't know me. We didn't know each other existed. And we lived 10 minutes down the road from each other. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like for me to be able to come in and say, hey, here are some blind spots. Here are some things that I would do differently from experience. It hits harder because there is this certain just like, oh, dude, I don't know who this guy is. And we knew, but like it almost is this like push and pull when it comes to like a president and a CEO or co-founders of you guys need to balance each other out and you need to, but the thing is you need to do that from day one. Right. Don't be all like, hugging, like, oh yeah, let's do this. Because like in the back of your head, you're always like, no, dude, I hate that. I hate that thing that we're doing. But if you don't get up there and say it, like, nothing's ever going to change. And I think that's what I've done well in my career is, right, if you ask Jamie, I'm for sure a people pleaser, but like I just say what's on my mind, right?
Oh God, it was like, it's refreshing. Yeah, I don't, because I'm more like nuanced and indirect, and your shit was just like it was a shock. And I mean I loved it, and I know everybody. And I was, when we first got up there on the first day, I was like,
like Susan Marie had to come get me. I'm like, I'm gonna hang out for a little.
But you know what? Here's a prime example of teamwork makes the dream work. We go to lunch, right? It was you, Brooke, Joe, Kenya, and I'm looking at the agenda, going, wait, why didn't we put Ned on the agenda for the day? Like, he needs to, I just announced this. They need to like hear from him. So we call this audible. Kenya's a beast. She reworks the deck.
In literally like half an hour, dude.
I know, like insane. You're like, here, this is all the stuff that I've been building out, for how to go to market and playbook, and I actually don't know what I'm saying.
You nailed it. You crushed it, bro.
So is that, I just heard you. Okay. So that's called like how you do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful. So, and it is kind of miraculous that my course even come this far with how little I know about how to do a thing. So it's proof that like you can build it. In fact, I wanted to say that too. I know it's a little sidebar here, but for those listening that are more, maybe you identify with me, you're the visionary type, you're the idea, person. You may be thinking, man, I should go find an integrator. I should go find a Ned. I should go find somebody that can, take care of the what's and the hows while I champion for the who and the why. I'm going to tell you that you're never going to attract that person if they don't see that it's half-baked.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, like, I can tell you right now, if you were just like a kumbaya fest and you were like, dude, let me tell you about my core.
Right.
We drink a lot of Kool-Aid. I'd be like, dude, that's really sick. I don't love sugar that much.
Right.
But I think that, dude, that's so crucial. When you're going and looking, like, dude, you've got to have an idea.
Better be on your damn way.
Right.
Past proof of concept.
100%.
Have
right.
a client base.
You've said it. Like, it's like, dude, we kind of accidentally ran into hundreds of clients. Right. But like, that means that you are providing a service and a product that people are like, dude, this is great. Like, because that's the thing that I think that most people start out that way. And I said this earlier, right? They start with the what, they build it, they great, and then they go find a bunch of who's that maybe fit in and whatnot. But that is really, really like an important piece of the puzzle of like, you better have something that provides value to the marketplace, because otherwise it's just some random group of people getting together, building a culture, doing a thing, and you may become successful, but it's the longevity of the thing doesn't happen unless you've built the culture that is like. And one thing I heard once is culture is what happens when you leave the room. It's what's said when you leave the room.
That's good.
Right. And I think what's interesting about that is, right, there were times that I would look around. God damn it. Hey, nope. But there were things that were said, like when you weren't in the room, there were times that you had to go and do other things. Yeah, and they absolutely were. Like, that's what I was just about to say. It was mainly Brooke. Brooke's here. But that it was just like, it was the same exact thing that you would say, right? And it's like, there is like, it just triggers this in people of, man, we are building this thing. We are, my core is made for Main Street. We help home service businesses and Main Street businesses with their HR, their payroll benefits, and their marketing. We do that thing. But I can tell you right now, I don't care if it's Curtis.
By the way, we have to like insert the profit share ad
right
now.
There. We do ad.
We do ad.
But like, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who you talk to. It doesn't matter if you're around. Nothing changes, right? And it's wild because the amount of diversity in that room is like, it's not a bunch of Nathan Bournes in there. It's people that have had massive success in other industries, other businesses. It's people that are looking for massive success in their next thing. And every single one of them, even if they weren't a part of my core, by the end of the 2 days, were speaking as if it was. And that's culture, dude.
Yeah,
it's not the kombucha. It's not the, cool little stylistic, definitely not the foosball, right?
By the way, foosball sucks.
Dude, it's the worst,
I have
bro.
a scar right here from playing foosball, so I'm probably scarred.
But it also, 12, I have also 0. Yeah, it's not like the whole,
and then you're supposed to not even spin it.
Yeah, anyway, is that that's a real rule?
Yeah, they say you're not supposed to spin it. So real foosball, you just go,
Nah,
and you wonder why people don't want to battle, go into battle with you and armor up and just do it. That's because you've been doing this, you weirdo. Yeah. Anyway, you're getting me pumped right now. What you're saying, man, because I think it's life's a series of contrasts. So you got to find those contrasts and create the tension between them. So for example, on one hand, you're saying everyone's saying the same thing, but they're not saying it in the same way. It's their voice. You can tell when someone's robotic or just homogenous or they're followers, not leaders. So this is a room of leaders, and leading leaders is a totally different animal than leading followers.
Yeah, and building a great company is building a group of leaders, right? And people that feel as if they can go out and mess up and know that it's not going to be the end of the world because you are there to mess up alongside them and learn from those. I think the worst cultures that I've ever seen, the worst cultures I've ever been a part of, are where leaders only want followers. Right. They only want the robotic. They would never, well, they have hired a Ned, but
it didn't go so well.
No, it sure did for them. We exited, but it was pulling teeth for sure. But it's the people that only want yes men. It's the people that only want, the people that won't push back, that will go do the thing, and they will get up on stage and they will regurgitate the information, and people will stand and they'll clap and they'll do all of these things. But if you want to build a culture that when you walk out the door, everyone else in that room feels empowered to be who they are, to say what they say, but because you've built a culture that is so just impactful, that they are saying the things. And here's the cool part is you and I are going to recruit a completely different person to this movement that is a company that serves an actual audience and an industry. But they're going to, Susan Marie and I was about to say Susan and Curtis Marie. I've said that so much. Curtis and Susan Marie are going to recruit a completely different type of person. But here's the thing. It's not a completely type of person because it's someone that is actually core. They believe in those core values, that core beliefs, and they see that, hey, this company is serving at a high level in a group of individuals, a group of businesses that are going to see actual results from the things that we do. But I'm actually attracted to the people. I'm attracted to the business. I'm attracted to the fact that I can step in as a people advisor, as a market advisor, and I can step in and be who I am to these clients because I believe in the core of what that company does. But more importantly than that, why? And even more importantly than that, who? Dude, that really is, man. And I think it honestly took me until getting to Columbia and interacting with individuals because, dude, I'm a what guy, dude. Yeah. Dude, I really am. And you know this as much as I am. It's like you will, it was like you, me, and Laura were sitting around talking. You are talking about this cool thing that we could do, and I go and build the what, right? And it's just like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I thought you were being rude.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the dumbest idea ever. I'm going to check Facebook. But it really is when you can build a culture of individuals that understand the what at a deep level, but they understand the why, and they feel like they are a who in the culture, right? Not a cog in the wheel, right? But a who, someone who develops inside of this culture, provides impact inside of this culture, and understands their place, but also understands that there is a place for them.
That's great.
It's like, man, it just flourishes.
transformed the last 48 hours. Like even from like when we hit the gym and I was like, I think this might tip. Like I think he might get it. And what I said was,
What I said in the gym still counts. Like, don't fucking, do not fucking. Like, no, fuck that, dude. Like, I love that.
don't say it, but yeah, I know exactly what you're 100%.
Dude, yeah, no, the barbell rows were still tough, bro.
Oh my God, that's funny, dude.
But keep talking, but I love you, bro.
I concur. I agree. Well, what we talked about 100%. And
yes,
not
and.
but.
Yeah.
And no, just meaning that you're absolutely right. That like within a healthy culture.
Are they making an espresso out there, by the way?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
Oh man. And I think people try to put people in a box.
Yeah.
Because they want to get where they think they're going sooner, because maybe they have pressure, and it could be legitimate pressure, right? It's investors, it's runway, it's cash flow. I would just encourage people, depending on what stage you're in, surround yourself with people. All stakeholders, all constituents have to get who you are.
Yeah.
And shame on you if you didn't tell them.
Yeah.
Like I tell people straight up, I am white trash meets Ivy League. Figure that one out, right? Because I'm gonna confuse you.
Yeah,
They're gonna be like, "Wow, you're really, sharp," but then like you didn't really use the right fork. When we went and ate that steak dinner and had the salad come out on the chilled plate, and it's like, yeah. dude, because I'm from Ocean City, Maryland. Like
which is nicer than Leonardtown.
It's the greatest place to be poor.
It's dope, bro. Yeah. But I think you said something earlier about like people tie themselves to the wrong trajectory, right? They like actually are going after the wrong thing. And like, I think what's interesting in the nuance of what you said is they're going after the wrong thing.
The wrong what?
The wrong what, right? And it's because society can't tell you who you are. They try, right? They try to tell you who you are. And a lot of people do, me included, for the first 32 years of my life, I'm 32, went after the things, the toys, the cars, the houses. And I got it.
You got the tiger by the tail. And I'm not saying you were miserable. That's not it. It's about sustainability, right?
No.
It's about finding the source. And, as a Christian, I don't just lead with who I am. I lead with whose I am. There's a possession aspect. And, wherever you are on that spectrum of belief and faith, I would encourage you to find something, exercise that faith. By the way, we haven't even stated our core values are walk by faith, lead with who, measure what matters. Those are our 3 core values. Our mission is to be the world's most people-centric company.
And everyone in that room knows them. Even the people that aren't in my core. And it's like, that is culture. I don't know what Facebook's core values are. And some people might be sitting there going, well, it doesn't matter. They're $1 billion company. Right? But like, that is crucial. There's a reason that Facebook has been a revolving door of executives. There is a reason that the average tenure of a VP of sales or a chief revenue officer in the tech world is 18 months. And I think it's actually 14 now. Jeez. That means you have been there for just long enough to take a shit. Right? Yeah. Like, that's it, dude. You haven't been able to make any changes in 14 months.
And it's, as you said that, when you say make changes, it might imply that you've affected change or you've iterated something. I think what you're saying there, at least the way I heard it, is actually make changes to yourself.
Dude, yeah.
Right? Like, are you a better parent? Are you a better leader? Did you, lose weight? Like, if the workplace, and this is something to consider too, right? I used to say it kind of earlier on in COVID, but so it had a little bit more of a kind of, it was cooler at the time, but I would say we're not working from home, we're homing from work, right? And the idea was just that we now live fully integrated lives. All of my core exists right here. Like the entire infrastructure, I can access right in the palm of my hand. that is a blessing. That is also a curse. I have 5 children, right? I have to balance my life. And obviously there's boundaries that have to be set around, you know, that and putting the phone down and all the things. What I'm saying in that is you don't leave it at the office.
No.
There's no such things because the technology's not there. In the 80s and 90s, you did drive from point A to point B. You got into your office.
And you left
checked
your notes
answering
there.
machine.
There was no
you left your
computers.
notes there. Yeah, exactly. It was on paper. You had to dial up the internet and get onto a desktop. You weren't walking around with it all on your phone. So if that's the reality, and whatever, if you want to be Amish and live off the grid,
cool.
go.
Do your thing.
Run like the wind. But most people are going to live a modern life. And what I think happens is that the workplace is the new, like, third place.
Yeah.
And it used to be that, oh, well, I have work over here and personal over there, and I got to find work-life balance. It's not a reality. You have to create counterbalance.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be saturated. Like, when I'm here at these events, man, and we were kind of just talking about this, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I've had to tell my wife, like, look, I'm going to check in with you. I'm going to let you know when I go to bed. I'm going to let you know when I wake up. But I am working, dude, because those conversations that you mention that happen when I'm not in the room, it's because I was in the room.
Absolutely.
Championing for him, having those conversations so many times through spaced repetition that I can confidently and with peace walk out and know that they're not going to say some dumb shit to Ned that's a red flag that he goes, hey, man, I hate to do this, but I really think maybe this isn't the right fit.
Yeah.
Whereas this is the right fit. We're going to announce this shit. We're going to do it in a podcast, and we're going to launch the Chairman podcast in the Graduate Hotel with a bunch of cocks around us. We're at USC's campus. They're the Gamecocks, and if you look, you freaks.
But if you ask anyone, we're probably a bunch of cocks here.
Right. So anyway, I'm saying that to say, and I know we actually do have to go into our executive team meeting. I think everyone's kind of waiting outside saying, like, screw you guys, don't care about your stupid ass podcast. We got business things to do because we're business people. I was most humbled this week by the full thing. But there was this moment where Ken came up to me while Kenya was killing it. Yeah. It's a lot of alliteration there. And it was just like, you had just said something, and I think like somebody, it was just sort of like a boom, boom, boom of the team. And Ken comes up to me and he's like, you're some mad scientist, man. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, what's he saying? He's like, the level of people that you have in this room right now. He's like, how, like, and I just was like, dude, that's God, man. Like, I'm just a conduit. But I am obviously proud of that, humbled by that. And I think that is culture.
Yeah.
I would state the following, and you and I in these episodes to come, we'll get into depth and we'll be really focused. And it's so cool because my core podcast that I do, I don't plan at all. I just get on there and riff. Yeah. You're like, these are the episodes. I'm like, sweet, content planned. Like, yes. So I know this was a little bit more freewheeling, but we're going to have some very tactical, practical application, because I'm a big believer that knowledge is not power. Yeah. Applied knowledge is power, right? You have to apply it to something.
Take action for sure.
So anyway, I was saying all that to say that if you are a leader and you haven't made very clear your weaknesses, and I don't mean that just like between you and your confidants. I mean, you can publicly make it weak, publicly make it known that you have these holes. That's when leaders will find you. Because what I know about leaders and people like you need to be needed. Yeah.
External validation is my love language. Right. Tell me I'm pretty.
Swipe up, like, share. Jeez, God. Comment. But really, like, it's like that song. I want you to want me. I need
That's in my head all the time.
Right. So a leader will always need to be needed. Yeah. And this is where I'm not great at this, but I try to find the areas, even if I'm like, I can kind of do that, or I'm pretty good. I actually don't even mind doing it. If I know it's not in my lane and in my sweet spot, I will like overtly be like, I suck at that. I'm horrible at that. Yeah. I hate doing that. And then people see that as a like, oh man, you're going to tell people that you're awful at that? I'm like, well, until somebody comes along that was born to do that, that was literally created by God and gifted and worked on that gift to fill that in. Because then everybody's operating from their natural their like almost the nature of their who, combined with the nurture and the work that they've had and the environment that they've been in and the things they've done to develop it, that's where the magic happens. That's where culture is built.
Yeah.
So
I think this is something here is like, because you said something is like the high, like with Ken, like the high level leaders, right? Dude, there is as bad as it is to have the wrong person in the wrong seat, it is just as bad to have the wrong person in the right seat. And I think what I've seen, I know what I've seen has been, there have been people that are hired because they are high level leaders and they've been placed in the right position,
right?
But they are the wrong person for that organization because that organization has not done the work on the culture.
Yeah.
And so this person comes in, and most people that come in, most executives, this is for any executives listening right now, here it is, camera. Eye contact is, don't just go in and your first day just be like, change. Right. Because you have to understand the culture and how it fits and where you come in and what they're doing right and where are the opportunities for improvement before you start going in and doing all of the things. But to get back to the point.
And by the way, just so I don't miss the opportunity, you've done that beautifully in the last 30, 60 days that we've been, leading up to this moment. And I've known moment, I'm like, cool. Yeah. And I think we had a little conversation on the way here around this where I think you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were essentially like, yeah, I can see that you're like, it's almost like I'm coachable, right? Like I'm totally coachable. Like I'm like, yeah, dude, like that's a good plan.
No, I think our relationship has been like you saying something, me being like, no, Nathan, that's dumb, or yes, Nathan, that's great. And me also saying, hey, we should try this thing. And you going, like, and us both being open to like our conversation at the gym, right?
Which we will not be talking
which we're not going to talk about. But it was a great conversation. I was
on the ground laughing too. So it was
no, because I think that's, but like, but that is the thing is like, you've brought so many people in because you've done that. Here are my weaknesses. Here are the things that I'm great at. And people have gravitated towards that. And so when people are creating content like Kenya was talking about, when people are building a company, when people are looking for their co-founders, when I don't care if you want to be a coach or a consultant, if you're listening to this right now and you want to be that and that's where you want to be, dude, that's awesome. But you still have to create a culture that gravitates your clients towards you. Yes. And if you are creating a culture that is fake, that isn't who you are, you're going to burn out because in an organization, here's the thing. The first 10 clients that you get, and it could be 100 if you're really transactional, whatever it is. But if they are the wrong clients because you are having people gravitate towards you that are the wrong people, you are not going to jive well. And you're going to build $100 million business in 6 months. And it's all going to come crashing down because guess what? Your facade can only withstand the pressure of business for so long. So you must lead with who and be actually just have those people gravitate towards who you are. And if you don't know who you are, figure it out. And the deconstruction phase is very difficult. And most people don't go through the deconstruction phase, right? Like I've talked about, hired an executive coach. The first question he asked me in our meeting, and I brought all my spreadsheets and all my things and all my documents to go show him. The first question he asked me was, what brings you joy? And I said, first off, never ask me that question again. Here's a spreadsheet. But then I went on this journey of what am I? Who am I? Right. What do I want out of this thing called life that we get one of, as far as I know, right? Don't know, right? And so from my perspective, I went through that deconstruction journey and he made me do this thing. It was the perfect day that I wanted to do. Be idealistic. It doesn't have to be 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And he said, and then when I came back to him, he said, how close are you? And I was pretty damn far away from what my actual perfect day was. But if you looked outside looking in, your boy was killing it. Right. And so from that perspective, I think there's a lot of people listening to this that are so far away from their perfect day because they're so far away from who they actually are, because they're chasing what LinkedIn tells you you should be.
And you're programming. Your parents asked you, your teachers asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, they didn't say who do you want to be.
Right? It's like, oh, I want to be you can't be a what.
No.
You can only be a who.
Yeah.
And I think people are trying to find satisfaction in their work when they're leading with the wrong thing. And then they wonder why, once again, on their LinkedIn, it says hashtag open to work around their face. And it's like, it's not because the place you worked sucked or because you got laid off. It's because if you were super clear in who you are and why you exist, you would attract and repel.
You would find the what. You would find the what, right?
Or you'd create it.
Or you create the what,
or even better, like for me, I would find other people to create the what, within the context of the vision. So, I mean, we could go on and on. I know we gotta jump here, but that is so crucial, man. I want to dedicate an episode to that, to the perfect day. Because you've inspired me on some things. I'm a little bit more of like a go. Like I don't plan. I plan like my day in the sense of, my appointments, obviously. I always have my day, but I'm really bad at like the self-care. So like for me, I do CrossFit. So
and you went to Penn.
Please tell everyone.
Division I athlete.
Did I mention? Have I got
great hair, like shit.
No, but I like CrossFit because I don't have to think about it. I can go in, I can knock it out for an hour, and I can get out of there, which is really great on one hand. But on the other hand, I don't really put a buffer before it and after it, and that's not really healthy. So I like how you do your day, and I want to get into that in another episode. I think we should probably land the plane because I don't want them to be like,
I've seen like
guys,
6 people come up and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
But I'm super stoked for this new era. One, because I'm a Swiftie, and two,
by the way, before this week, I never got that. But now I realize her tour was called the New Era Tour.
Yeah, and we're in our Ned era right now.
Yeah, we are. Our Ned era.
Eric. Oh, there you go. And I think that this is going to be a really great space for you and I to converse around these topics. We also will have guests, but we've sort of decided that we're going to be very selective about who those guests are. I think even flowing in some of our own executive team members would be awesome to get their take on things. Because here's my thought process. I'm a big believer in the phrase, I'm sorry, what you're doing is so loud, I can't hear you. And I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier with the gurus that are just talking about it, and why this is a bit of a podcast for people who are sick and tired of business podcasts or a business podcast, because it's not really about business, it's about life and leadership and the integration thereof, and just being the chairman of your life, and that might mean taking career, control, business, taking control, being the person that you're designed to be. So I'm stoked about this, man. I think it's today I got notes, and I think if we approach it where we're going to be iron sharpening iron, as it says in Proverbs, then we'll be better. And it's kind of more fly on the wall. Hey, if you guys get something out of it, great. I'm stoked about what I just learned from Ned. And, so yeah, man, I think this is going to be cool.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked. Yeah. Brooke's telling us not to stop, but sorry, Brooke, we have to stop. Sorry. I apologize. So until next time.
Cliffhanger.